All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going out there? I would like to make sure that my system's up and running and working. So if you guys want to throw me a comment on the chat right here for either Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is that you're on, that would be great, just to verify. But in the meantime, wanted everybody to know who I am, TG Watkins, over here at ProfitPilot.com. We've got some crazy stuff going on in the markets. The elections for the Democrats or the Senate seems to be leading by the Democrat. Okay, that's what it is. The market is responding favorably. Now, maybe that's because it's the Democrats versus the Republican. You can make that argument all day long, whatever. I think that a lot of it is that the uncertainty is out of the way. That for the most part, it's been decided. We know what the market, we know where the Senate is, so we know where the market is going. And we're seeing a lot of things responding to that because of those indications. So we're going to be going through that, kind of showing what's hot, what's not, and just talk about the market because this thing is crazy. Yeah, good. Thanks. Everything is looking fantastic. Everything is good, and we're getting people texting. So fantastic. Thank you, Jamie. But yeah, so wanted to just show one quick thing as far as the last newsletter I had. Welcome to 2021. This is going to be the first live feed that we did or that we are doing in 2021. And as kind of a recap, wanted to go through and show you guys, my kind of year. I had a few accounts and actually did the tabulations after I did this for my other ones. But I had a brokerage account go 332% for 2020. I had 350% for my Roth. I had a bigger Roth. There was a $1 million Roth that's now, actually, I just tapped $3 million today, and that was up 260% for 2020 in a Roth IRA. I had another brokerage that went 297. This one was $6,000 up to almost $20,000. And then, in fact, I'm over that today. And then I had another one that when the whole market crashed, the COVID crash and all that, my family's money was not doing well because my sister and my mom and my uncle and some other family members had their money just in a regular old, managed fund of some sort where you just put your money in whatever and you think it's being monitored. But it just moved lockstep with the market, and I was very upset about that. So I opened an account in June 8th of 2020 with $645,000, and at the end of 2020, I grew that to $1.7 million. That was a 269% gain in just under 7 months. Now, granted, we've had a really good market, but you got to be able to take advantage of these things. And again, this was all stock. I don't trade options, so this was all stock, and we're having a good day even today. So now that some of these elections are over and out of the way, the market seems happy with what's going on. And one other thing is that as a service of my Moxie Mastery, which you guys can find, over here under services, you can go over and click on the Moxie Trader Mastery. That is my alert service. Once a month, we do a live trading session, and that was yesterday. It was the first of the month. And it was kind of funny. Some of us were chatting and they're like, oh, wish we could have done this on another day because yesterday, 2 days ago, Monday, the market had just completely ripped down like this. And we're like, okay, this is going to be a little bit rough. Like, what am I going to do on Tuesday, the next day, having to recover from this, thinking, are there going to be good names out there? Are there going to be good positions to trade? And as it turns out, it was pretty darn good. Also, we had the issue of the Senate election, and we're thinking, great, we're going to be putting on some trades. I'm going to have a live trade session right into this big news event, this unknown news event. And just before a market dip, it's like, this couldn't be the worst time to have a live session and have to put on some trades. But I got to tell you, I think pretty much all the trades that we put on are actually doing really, really well today. And, we've had people in the room just commenting like, this is great, way to kick off 2021. Some of them are saying this is the biggest account gain that they've had. I mean, everything's green. I'm getting a lot of good compliments. I'm glad that everybody was on board. I'm so thrilled and so happy that yesterday's live trading worked out. And for anybody who was on board, hey, bravo to us. We're doing it and we're having a good time with it. The thing that I was looking at yesterday and kind of Monday going into this week was, for the S&P, it keeps bouncing off of the hourly 200 SMA and it keeps getting bought up. And one of those things I kept looking at, I was like, well, that's not too bad. It's not too bad. Let's kind of look at that. We've got squeezes on the daily chart. I kind of change colors here. And we still had a very wide 8 and 21 moat on the daily chart. So kind of looked at that, The only thing that I had left off with yesterday was I said in order to verify that this market actually indeed wanted to go up was I wanted to see price find support at the 15-minute 50, and look what it did this morning. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, thanks, Frank. Glad you guys are having a good time with it. So we're having fun. It's kind of like a party over in the Moxie room this morning. I can tell you that. And I'm looking at my account. I'm pretty happy about it too. So we're having a good time. And over here, you can see that there's a 127 extension, which has been pretty much dogging the S&P for quite some time. They tried to kind of move past it into the new year on Monday, but then that got just completely demolished. It got sold into so hard that we're actually looking at that as more of a liquidation break. And I go in and I talk about that in a lot of my classes and stuff like that. So I looked at that and I said, you know, the fact that it keeps getting bought up, that might actually be pretty bullish, and I don't think we should be too concerned about, you know, bearish and going negative or anything like this. The other thing I was talking about was the Moxie indicator is actually now showing us positive divergence. I know it's really funky to kind of look at, but this is where my years of experience with the indicator kind of come into play and say, you know what, I think I know how I'm reading this and how I'm interpreting this, and I didn't really want to be too bearish on anything. So, so far so good. You know, I feel like we're almost never out of the woodworks when it comes to the market, but it's kind of hard to ignore what we're seeing right here, and especially if you look at the IWM. Hello, new highs. Yeah, it's gonna be. I feel like it's gonna be pretty hard to really roll this thing over and smack the IWM down to where, you know, these gains are not going to be acceptable. So I have a hard time saying that. That's why I'm thinking, hey, we're looking pretty good out there. It is pretty crazy. I mean, we are going vertical right now. I mean, this thing is off to the moon. That's the only concern, is that it's just so freaking high. But, you know, how are we going to argue that? We're not going to really argue that. And you can see here that we did get a pullback. You know, price was overbought for quite some time. It pulled back to the hourly 200, so that's great. It also pulled back to the daily 21. Turns out that was all the support that it needed. And we are now actually in a better range because, you know, this whole time we kept bumping up against some of these outer boundaries right up and through here, and it just kept running. But since it pulled back, you know, we bought ourselves some space. It actually pulled off of those high, you know, those extensions and came back down to some support and then bounced. So I feel like we've kind of caught our breath and found a new wind. And if we look at the Qs, I imagine that this should resolve to the upside, because why would the other ones not? Why would the other ones do it, but this one wouldn't? There was an inverse trampoline move. This is a bearish thing right there. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. This is the thing that we kept kind of looking at going into the end of the year and saying, what are we doing about this? You know, like what are we going to be looking at and saying, you know, these are some concerning signs. Something needs to happen. And I kind of just said some sort of refresh needs to happen. Well, we got Monday, and Monday appeared to be the refresh, and then we got the elections out of the way. And yeah, so they're doing all right. Now, there is something to be said. What I've been hearing as far as the Senate race, and assuming that the Democrats win, you know, some of the undercurrents of why tech is actually getting hit the hardest is because I'm hearing that there's going to be more regulations coming, okay? Higher taxes, okay? Maybe corporations don't like that. So there are some things. But then also, my theory behind if the Democrats are winning, we're going to be seeing kind of a push into, think about climate stuff, you know, electric vehicles, renewables, solar, cannabis, you know, those are the things that are actually doing quite well. And I didn't mention it yet. Let me get this. I am going to be doing here we go. I'm going to be doing a live webinar, you know, free promotional thing coming up on the 14th of January. So you can see that right here, Thursday, the 14th of January. And we're going to be talking about a lot of these things. In fact, one of them is the case study, where the last webinar I had early December, I left the presentation off talking about UAVS as kind of like a sleeper stock. And I was like, you know, I think we should really keep an eye on this. It was a completely public trade. I told anybody who wanted to hear about it, And that doesn't mean we drove up the market. This thing didn't actually go for a few weeks until after that presentation. So it's not like I did the presentation, then it started to run up. No, this thing kind of oscillated a little bit, and that actually stopped us out, and we had to get back in a second time, and then it started to move. But it was out there, I put it out there, and that thing went 210%, and we had a great time with that one. Some of the other stuff we're going to be talking about, as I just mentioned, cannabis. We'll talk about IIPR, which was another thing that I put into that last presentation. Riot, which has been going crazy, crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain, all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, cannabis we got here. And then we'll be talking about, hey, what do we see coming in 2021? I touched on it in the last presentation. This presentation is going to be really more about 2021 and all the things that we're going to be seeing going forward, the bigger trends, the higher time frames, what we're looking at. And then the anti-COVID stocks. You know, we've been talking about the COVID stocks, the CrowdStrike, the Zoom, the whatevers that have been doing really well because of COVID and because of the lockdowns. But now we're talking about the anti-COVID stocks, the stocks that need the vaccine, that they need COVID to go away in order to return back to normalcy, the stuff that is in the IWM, the hotels, the cruise lines, you know, the high-touch industries. We're going to be diving into that. I'll be showing you some trends and what to be looking for that actually kind of translate back to this kind of situation that I talked about on UAVS. And then, yeah, cryptos again, we're talking about gold, silver, and just the insanity that's happening there and why. There's some interesting things that I think change going forward in the business sector that's going to be really influencing crypto, Bitcoin specifically, and I think we need to be aware of it. So come over here, sign up. It's going to be free. It's going to be on the 14th, and that one's going to be another neat one to talk about. And then if we go look at UVXY, this is another one I like to look at. You know, I had a lot of people in the live session yesterday being like, but UVXY. And I said, I know, I see it. It looks like it's bottoming. It sure looks like this thing is ready to go. But it is the UVXY. It's volatility. It can do anything it wants. And I said, you know, it's just people hedging. You know, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of concern about this election thing. And it just looks like the market's really kind of unstable. So it is really great that it has now deflated as far as today goes. We do always need to keep an eye on it and just make sure. I really would love to see this thing get out of this channel. Like, I'm not super thrilled that it just keeps holding this. I would like to see it break lower and just start to fade. That would bode really well for a rising market, and that's what I want to see here. Let's see. Yeah, hey, Bram, that's totally right. There are a lot of people probably getting smashed as far as shorts go. When you look at this SPY, I mean, look at this thing. Like, holy cow. Talk about some crazy moves. Anybody who's new to the market and not used to this kind of stuff, here you go. This is what happens. We get one day massively down, and we get another day massively up. And that just drives out any kind of stops and then drives out shorts and kind of frees up a lot of money. You know, you might have noticed in your account you get stopped out and you have to go back in. Well, that frees up some liquidity and money for people to go put back into the market for work. Now, let's see. All right. Actually, let me turn that one off for a moment. There we go. But on that note, because I just saw a buddy of mine talking about that, let's see, SUNW, yeah, okay, so that one worked out. This is one that we were in and then out, and look at it, it is doing pretty well. So this goes along with what, as I said kind of earlier, I think some of the kind of the Democrat-led talking points about solar, renewables, you know, Green New Deal type stuff. SunW, solar, seems to be doing pretty well. Let's see, this thing has moved up, oh yeah, 26%. That is fantastic. I will say we did get ourselves out of this, but what we did was we went over to VVPR yesterday, and I like this one. It's looking pretty solid. I think it's just going to be kind of percolating, just kind of waiting for this thing to get moving and keep moving up. So there are going to be some really nice names. We're looking at SOL. Look at that. That's kind of what I'm envisioning some of these solar names to end up doing. So you know what? Something like SUNW, there's always an opportunity to get back in when these things really start moving like this. So keep an eye on the solar space. Let's see. TAN. Yeah, look at that. The solar ETF doing quite well. So that is a really good sector to be keeping an eye on. Another one, let's see. Mo, let's look. PYPL, see what's happening on over there. All right. Well, so far, PayPal right here has been getting rejected by the underside of the hourly 50, and the Moxie indicator is below 0. I don't see a trade yet. Seems to me like it's just kind of pulling back and going sideways. Maybe, as we've kind of seen with the rest of the market, maybe there's going to be some support here at the daily 21 or the hourly 200. You know, the Moxie indicator here on the 15-minute doesn't look too terrible. Price has kind of been going sideways to down, but the Moxie indicator is at least up. So really, I'd be looking at this as kind of more of a flag slash pullback to find some support, and then it should keep moving up from there. Big picture, I don't think that there's anything wrong with PayPal. So the only thing you're trying to do is kind of find out where is that low, where is that floor, and where are we going to get things to get going. Hey, yeah, John, glad you actually did hang on to SunW. You know, sometimes when I look at this stuff, I just want to make sure that we're in the best names, and it was a little tough to tell with SUNW because on the weekly and the monthly charts, it was right at a moving average, and I thought that might have been kind of dogging it for a little bit. So I decided to move over to something that didn't have any resistance overhead. So hey, maybe we'll have to get back into it. Skylar, let's see. I did see REI was mentioned in the Moxie room. Yeah, let's kind of take a look at it. Looks like Ring Energy. I don't know anything about this one, but what I can see right through here is we had price move down, the Moxie indicator moved up. That was the beginning of the divergence, trying to slow price down, slow that descent. And then you could see we got our double bottom in there. If anybody knows the elf shoe pattern with the Moxie subscribers, that's the elf shoe. And then there's the elf toe. That's price moving up. And then this thing's just kind of doing that pinball. You know, we got price rejected by the daily 200. Then it came back down, found support at the daily 50. And yeah, now this thing is looking pretty good. Look, here's your double bottom on the 15. There's your positive divergence. And in fact, this was a trampoline move on the 15-minute time frame. If you guys aren't familiar with that, you got to come over here to profitpilot.com and click on the Moxie stock method. This is the class that I teach about my method and how I trade and what I'm teaching, all that kind of stuff. And so we get a lot of people who really, really enjoy that. In fact, I get subscribers that come into the Moxie room saying, hey, I just finished your class and it's amazing. And now I'm here in the Moxie room to continue the learning. But yeah, this looks pretty good. As long as price can stay over the hourly 50, it looks really good. And generally, as long as price can stay over the daily 50, I'd see this thing start moving up. And one other thing I talk about is that you knock on the door once, like the first time it gets to that moving average, you knock on the door once on the first time, the second time you open it. So there's a good chance that price will come up to here, maybe oscillate a little bit, and then hopefully get past it. So kind of watch for that. But you know, the daily 200 will be some resistance at some point. Yeah, Mara, that's another good one. So in our live trading, we went in on that one yesterday, you know, right in somewhere around here, and we're having a great day today. So these are the things that we do, and we have a good time with in the live trading for the Moxie subscribers. Yep, LAC. Joe, yeah, you're asking about that. I like this one too. Honestly, I had too many names going. For me, I'm kind of at capacity. I think the Moxie room still has some, but look at this. It just bounced right off of the hourly 50, and it found support at the 15-minute 50, and the Moxie indicator was looking fantastic, and we had a lot of elevation here too. So kind of goes with that, you know, this is a lithium miner. We're talking about the electric vehicles and the revolution that's coming and the wave of the future. So absolutely, and by all means, and we did cover this yesterday in the live trading for Moxie Group as well. And Chris, sorry if I don't know your name, but were you in the Moxie group? Or you were in there yesterday? Because yeah, we did talk about this. You know, I'm not going to be making this a public trade. I think it's going to be one of the kind of riskier ones. But I did like to mention that I think that Watt is going to be something that is out there. It is a crazy technology. It's basically they're trying to figure out how do you transmit electricity through the air, basically through radio waves. And one concept about that that I do find fascinating is, you know, we have the issue of power storage for electric vehicles. You know, we have to have a big battery in order to go very far. Well, what if you could power cars without a battery by using, you know, radio frequency? Like, what if you could just do that? And so that's kind of the concept. Or if we can power space, or if we can actually get electricity from like giant space solar panels and beam that electricity back down to Earth, there's a lot of interesting sci-fi technology that kind of is behind the idea of Watt. So if you guys are into that, it does look like there's some volume coming into it. It does look like it's bottomed. It looks like it's trying to turn around. And, maybe it's one of those things you just put some money into it and you hold it for, who knows, 2, 5, 10, 20 years? Maybe. Might be one of those things. All right, let's see. Go. Yep, all right. And we discussed this one too yesterday a little bit. And what I liked about this, and trust me, I've been trying to trade this one for a little bit, but it's been challenging. And it's been having some troubles because it's part of the airline industry and with the COVID and the new strain and whatever. But, it seems as though these are starting to hang in there. Notice that this is really just bottomed. That's pretty good. We're looking at that. You're like, okay, price doesn't want to go lower. And then look at the Moxie divergence. And we got that Moxie price trigger today. And then look what happened here on the 15. You got a double bottom, positive divergence. And look how tight that Moxie indicator is right there. So, yep, go-go's looking pretty good. Any kind of pullback to the hourly 50 should be fine, but go-go's looking just fine. I like it. All right, then MRAM, let's see. Beyond Meat, does that thing do anything? Because we tried it once and it didn't work. I could see that maybe, let's see, let's kind of look at the higher time frame and see if there's anything to be seen. It's hard to say. I would have preferred that price here actually bounced off of the monthly 10 and did something over here, but there is the argument for a double bottom, maybe a trampoline move on the weekly chart. And then yeah, but I don't see anything yet. It's kind of coming down to that double bottom area, previous low. But there is some divergence, but we're going to have to see this thing turn. So we're going to have to just wait a little bit longer. So Jackie Murphy, as far as my service, I do have a lot of people that trade options based on my calls. Like what I do as far as putting something out there. I'm just a stock trader, and I say this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want the stock to do. Here, if it goes to this point, get out. It's wrong. I give you a stop loss. So if you guys want to trade options around my trades, you can, and a lot of people do. So if you want to get fancy with it, or do spreads or strangles, whatever, be my guest. A lot of people are very happy with it. You can probably see in the comments that a lot of people do that too. Average time frame, sometimes it depends. We have NEO. We've had that one for probably 2 months at this point. Most trades are a few days to a few weeks. It just kind of depends on whatever the market does. Sometimes there'll be 1 day because I'll get stopped out the very next day. It just kind of depends. Guillermo, it doesn't matter if we're in a stock bubble. It does not matter. If things are going to keep ripping and roaring, that's great. We will take advantage of them. And whenever that bubble pops, we can get out. That's the great thing about it. Yeah, Mo, F-Cell doing well. Talked about that one yesterday. Looks like it wanted to bounce off of the daily 21. Did just a little bit of a double bottom with an undercut right there. There was your double bottom. There's your positive divergence. Price did, in fact, hold the 15-minute 50 yesterday, and now it's up. So at something like this, I just have to find a way to get back in. But, I'm okay. I got a pretty full load today. We're having a great time. Sometimes you just can't catch them all, but happy about that. And let's see, BLNK. See, something like this might still be in a better opportunity. Like it hasn't totally run away, but you can see same kind of deal. Held the 15-minute 50. We got price down, Moxie indicator up. And it looks to me like, BLNK is still going to be in range for a good move to the upside if you're looking for something that is a little bit fresher and not too overbought for the moment. But overall, these things look like they're in pretty good uptrends. So, if you guys want to get into something, I wouldn't be too skittish about it. Yeah, Jamie, that's exactly right. Stock bubbles can take years to play out. So, while that might be the case, I am not worried about it right now. We can... if the market decides to implode one day, that's great. Our stops will get hit, we go to cash, and then we just let it keep melting down. Not our issue. All right, mRNA. Fiona, good to see you. Welcome. And I don't know, personally, I'd be a little bit cautious about this because I don't always like to play names that are just so in the middle of the news. I mean, mRNA and Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer, I mean, they're just right smack in the middle of the spotlight when it comes to this COVID stuff. So I just kind of personally stay away from it. If we're talking about chart patterns, we had a good bounce off the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator right there. And then look, this thing just got horrendously overbought. Like, look how far away that thing was from any kind of support. And there you can see the Moxie price trigger to the downside saying, hey, you better get out. And then ever since then, it kept staying underneath the hourly 50 and kept trending down. So where is it at now? Well, this is a bit of a trampoline move on the daily chart. It is basically finding support at the daily 50. But I'm not so super sure that this is going to be the buy, you know? Price is still running into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is still below zero, in fact, and I don't see any divergence on the Moxie indicator. So I would just wait. I don't think that there is any need to really jump into something like this right now. I think that even if you wait, there's going to be a second opportunity at a really, really good price to get in, and this thing could keep going further. We've seen that with names like Space. They look like they bounce and then they go further. So just be patient. I don't think that you really need to jump into something like this. Speaking of Space, see what I mean? Like well, let's kind of do this. We can see that with Space, you know, it had its initial bounce off of the daily 50, which was right here. And you can see then this was an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. Plus, there wasn't any divergence, you know? There was no divergence. And so you can see that price actually wanted to go lower in that case. And that's what I'm just cautioning about with mRNA. I think that there could be some issues about that, and just give it some time. Not too rushed on that. So let's kind of take a look at some of these bigger names, like Apple, and see what's going on with tech, since they've been getting hammered with the news about the election. The one thing I've been saying, and I've been saying this for a while, is that right here you can see that price was at a previous high. It's going to be just a normal, natural double top. You know, it's going to be a natural resistance. And to add to that, look, price was way outside of these outer boundaries. Like, it was just overbought, and it was overbought at a previous high at a double top. It's going to pull back. That should have been totally expected, that there was going to be a pullback. Now, where does it go? I never know. But what I do know is I can see when something is actually ready to go long again, and that tells me that the pullback is finished. This might be there. It's getting pretty close to probably a new buy, but we can see double bottom and kind of finding some support at the hourly 200. You know, here's your double bottom, there's your positive divergence. I'm starting to see some interest, but I wouldn't, for me, say, hey, go buy it right now. I don't think it's quite ready. And then how about Amazon? Amazon continues to kind of do its little pullback too. Overall, I'm bullish on Amazon. I'm bullish on Apple. You know, I'm bullish on all the big names. I think they're totally going to be fine. And one of the things that we're going to be doing on that, well, let me show you, on this webinar here on the 14th, is we're going to be talking about some of these bigger names. Because I'm sure a lot of people are looking at Amazon, Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, Adobe, looking at all these things and be like, what the heck is going on? Why aren't they moving? Well, I've got an answer to that, and that's what we're going to be talking about on the 14th. So sign up for that webinar. It's free. And yeah, come join. So Amazon, still kind of waiting. You know, maybe it's going to be finding some support at the daily 50. You know, maybe we've kind of got this double bottom going. You can see double bottom here, positive divergence, but it's not ready yet. It's close, but it's not ready yet. So I'm going to be keeping watching these things and just waiting for them to turn around and do something like that. And on that name also, it's the MSFT. Now this one's getting hit a little bit harder. Yeah, so I actually put an X here a while ago, and the reason I put the X right there was because we were talking about it when price was up here, and I said, don't be surprised if price pulls back. I think it's extended. I think it's pretty high. If you look at the daily chart, kind of zoom out right there. If you look at the daily chart, price has been having a real hard time trying to get past this previous level. I said, don't be surprised if price pulls back. And I put an X there as kind of an idea of, hey, it should at least go there. Now, the fact that it keeps going down, that's why I say I never know where a pullback is going to go. So oftentimes I just like to get out of them. What we could see, though, is price kept getting rejected by the 15-minute 50 right there. So until we can see this thing turn around, I don't quite see an entry yet. This could be the low, but we can't confirm that yet, and so I'm going to give it a little bit more time. All right, well, that was kind of a fun, quick jaunt through the markets. Clearly, the markets are up and doing fine today, so we're going to see how long we can let this thing run. We're going to be talking about this one on the 14th, the free webinar presentation that I'm going to be doing, talking about all these case studies and whatever. And then if you come over here to profitpilot.com, come check it out. One thing I do want to just reiterate, if I don't know if haters out there or people just want to know, do you walk the walk? Yes, I do. Coming over here, I actually talk about my 2020 gains, and on average, on average, 332%, 351%, 297%, 269%. I have a $3 million Roth now that I got 260% out of that. So, yeah, if anybody's wondering how I'm doing just fine. If you guys want to get on board, come join. We'll see you here at profitpilot.com.